Hey, Rikki. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you're also a regular on Bill Maher. I just saw you a few weeks ago. You were great.
Thank you. I just had my second appearance, so I guess that technically makes me a recurring person now, which is flattering. I'm happy to be back. Yeah.
We're two smart chicks from Jersey of two different generations. I'm a millennial. You're Gen Z. I'd call you a wonderkin because you're 24 years old. You dropped out of NYU at 19 during COVID, and you've already written a book, The Canceling of the American Mind. Now you're working at the New York Post as a columnist at 24 years old. I also worked there at your age, but I was at page 6 and you are on the opinions desk. So thanks for joining the show. We have a lot in common. This could be fun.
Yeah, super fun. And the Post is a super fun place to work. I don't know if that was your experience, but I feel like there's no more fun place to have your opinions or page 6. I feel like I haven't
Yes.
really been able to write on that side more than like one or two articles, but like that when I do, it's really fun.
Yeah, it can be hard Scrabble. I eventually moved on to the general assignment desk and like was outside door knocking and running around the country chasing crazy characters like cannibals and this and that. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't
it's a
envy
fun place
people
to
that are
work.
doing that. I think being on the columnist side is a little bit easier than the people that are like on the news like that. So
Yeah,
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 that's a tough gig for sure.
it's a fun one though. Okay, so I want to play a game called tarot cards. It sounds like tarot cards, and it's for a reason. We're going to predict the future together as best as we
Okay,
can.
let's do it.
Don't hold us to it, or you can. You can email me if you want to complain. Tara at tarapalmeri.com. Okay. You are an expert on all things Gen Z. And obviously, they helped Donald Trump make his way into the White House. They were very upset about their financial portfolios and prospects under Joe Biden. But this has been a brutal week for the market. I'm sure they're checking both, the markets and their their crypto investments. But like, when does Gen Z turn on Trump?
I mean, I think that like it is kind of a misconception that like Gen Z as a whole was super gung ho. I think it's Gen Z
Mm,
men for sure. Gen Z women are like especially if not the most hostile demographic to Trump, I think,
mm,
from my experience. But I think that something that's interesting is this happened now twice, where with Biden, Gen Z was the generation that had the most precipitous drop in approval ratings of Biden and his presidency.
mm.
Like they were the most optimistic, and then were the least happy at the end, and I think understandably so. And again, when Trump first took office, there was the largest approval drop in Gen Z a second time over. I don't really know what that says about us that like we're thinking the best of our presidents as they come in, or if we're just being like open to seeing how people are effing up when they actually show up in office. But also like a massive approval drop in Elon Musk specifically among Gen Z
Oh,
when
interesting.
he first started to like roll in with his Doge stuff, which I thought was kind of surprising to me too. That young people were especially off put by that. Maybe because they were like it's a assault on like job prospects. I wasn't quite sure what to make of that.
Well, Rocket
Um,
Man isn't that cool anymore, right?
I guess not. I mean, I
He's
think
not
my approval,
counterculture anymore when he's a
my
part of the administration.
exactly. I mean, my N of one approval rating of him definitely went down since he has gotten involved in the administration. I think it's like he's definitely been more bombastic in that capacity than I thought he was going to be. But I think that like for sure what I'm seeing just like as an individual and like on the ground and in my reporting is that a lot of young people are like seeing taking evidence at face value. I think that was the case in the Biden administration and also in the Trump administration, and a lot of people are turning on Trump, but there still is that like small fraction of the young men that like went very reactionary right. I think and
Mm.
as a result understandably of being a young person in lockdowns, which I kind of went a little bit
They
reactionary
became
right almost
radicalized.
myself. Yeah, I mean like when you're like a young healthy like young man and like your college is forcing you to maybe get a vaccine that you don't think is like necessary for you, or not letting you go outside without like scanning and I
Yeah.
like a pass to go in. Like there, these are like formative life experiences that I think really like changed how especially young men thought. I think that's kind of created the like kind of Rogan bro
Yeah, they wanted that
surprise
college
like
experience. They
turnout.
want to join frats. They
Yeah,
want to take women out. They want to like live
yeah,
their lives.
definitely. And I
They
think a
don't want
lot
to be
of the
stuck
appeals to
inside.
emotional concerns about other people and stuff, and like don't go outside because of grandma and stuff like that kind of wore thin on young men quicker. But
Mm.
I think those young guys probably still are into the Trump thing. But I mean, I don't know. The already my savings are decimated by these tariffs, so I think a lot of young people are responding to that too.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I do notice though that there are just like a lot of Trump fanboys, like I call them like the Boy Scouts, and a lot of them
Mhm.
are on social media and they'll sort of just echo whatever he says. And I
Yes.
wonder how long that's going to last for. Like even when these influencers were brought into the White House and they were given these like fake Epstein packets that were supposedly classified, but they were really just documents that were from one of the victims, Virginia Giuffre's court cases, and there was nothing new in them, and they were sort of
Hmm.
used as props by Pam Bondi to show that she was like releasing some unknown documents on Epstein. I personally know about this because I have been investigating Jeffrey Epstein. I have multiple podcasts on Jeffrey Epstein,
Hmm.
and it was just like they were used as props. But I wonder how long these kind of fanboys that are in the Gen Z world go along with Trump, and for how long, or at least Gen Z influencers, even if they aren't quite Gen Z.
I mean, I think those are exactly the sorts of people that I'm talking about that I think kind of got radicalized by those sorts of life experiences. And
Mm.
I think that this is like a very defining feature of them. Like they're reactionary. They are defining themselves as opposite of the status quo that they grew up in. Like it's kind of the opposite of, I think for some millennials, like they thought that they were being different and progressive by being like far to the left, and they were pushing against like conservative orthodoxy or conservative institutions. But like to be a young person today is like, your professors or your teachers are probably like very politically correct and walking on eggshells all
Mm.
the time. And I think for a lot of these young men, especially, and also young women, and also kind of myself too, growing up, like I had a very reactionary phase where like the way that you actually like stick it to the establishment is going to the right and being kind of like a shock jock on the right. And I think that for a lot of these young guys, that is their identity. Donald Trump kind of like is the manifestation of that. Like wearing a MAGA hat is like the ultimate way to kind of like ruffle
Mm.
feathers. And I don't know that like once you dig your heels in on that, like I don't know that you really come out on the other end just because of like you've reasoned yourself out
Yeah.
of it, or just because like tariffs were a bad policy.
Yeah, they're kind of ride or die. They feel like they've put too much on the
I
line
think
by
so.
choosing that extreme stance that they can't really back away. My brother's close to your age. He's 27, and he's like very. I don't think he's like so much pro Trump as he is like pro the movement, like Ben Shapiro, Tucker,
Hmm.
JD Vance. He sort of sees that, and I think. But then again, you see Ben Shapiro backed away from Trump and said, like, these tariffs are stupid. And does he give permission for
Yeah.
these young men to be like, hey, bro, I'm a crypto guy and like I want my watches and my crypto's going down? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there are like permission structures now that some of these influencers are creating for these guys to
Yeah.
like walk back away from Trump and perhaps create the next wave of leadership under someone else. Who knows? Someone
I mean,
who
it's
claims.
interesting the way that, I'm sorry.
No. What were you going to
I
say?
was I was gonna say it's interesting the fracturing that is going on over the tariffs between Elon now spending with Navarro, and you have like Rand Paul is sticking out as like a very free market Republican, which I think is great. Like I'm that's the sort of like model of Republican like fiscal conservatism that I feel like everyone believed in until very recently when this like Trumpian populist movement took over. Like Bill Ackman was so like in line with
Right.
Trump for a while, and is like was a really really like harsh critic of the tariff policy. So I think that this is an issue that like could shift things. But then you also have the dynamic of like how many of these, especially like Gen Z young men, a lot of them don't have considerable savings yet. Like they came of age in the pandemic. They might not even really have a 401k or investments. They might not be feeling this. And it might be kind of like an FU to the older generations, or to the like who they see as like the rich. And I think like a lot of the rhetoric that I'm seeing that's surprising me too is this idea that the stock market, like if wealthy people lose money in the stock market, that means that poor people or working class people somehow profit. And like it's this like net zero or zero sum game somehow. And that, I mean, it's like a remarkable amount of financial illiteracy that's going around. And I wonder, like, for young people who don't have that savings yet, like, is the tariff thing going to be the thing to break them? Perhaps not.
Oh, so you don't think the tariff thing will break the back between
I mean, maybe not these younger Gen Z guys who don't have the bank accounts yet to fluctuate enough to actually care and feel it.
Interesting. Well, I want to talk too about the Trump's feud with the universities. How will it end, Rikki? What did the cards show you?
I think that, Columbia, I was shocked by how much they capitulated. Like the idea that they're putting their Middle Eastern Studies department under academic receivership, which basically means that they're putting a provost in place, but like an outside person who's not actually appointed by the professors within it or overseeing it. Like that seems like an egregious overstepping the boundaries of like academic freedom and just in like a really blatant way, just because the government said so. But I think that there are going to be a few holdouts. Like the president of Princeton University said, no matter what the president demands, like we are going to hold firm. I hope that some of these universities will actually use their endowments. I don't know what they're for, if not this. I think there's a perfect test case. Like you guys have billions of dollars. I don't know what you're waiting to use them for, if not for when the federal government is threatening you with withholding your federal dollars. So I think that there will be holdouts, but I also worry about smaller
They need it for
schools.
those presidents' houses, right? Like those multi-million dollar
No kidding.
estates that the presidents live in. I'm always shocked by how much a president of a university is paid and how they live. They're like kings.
It's really shocking. Like, I mean, I was writing recently about how at the new school there was this petition going around to sell off the president's townhouse. It was like a $12 million townhouse or something, and like just in downtown Manhattan. But I think some of these smaller schools that like really can't afford to lose their federal funding could fold and could fold quickly, and will start making moves to anticipate what the Trump administration might want. And I think that's kind of a disturbing place to be at, even if I might agree with some of the original like stipulations of what the administration is trying to push in the first place.
Here's a little nugget from K Street. One of my sources said that they've been hired because they work with a firm that's close to Trump and his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, by these major universities to broker deals between the universities and the Trump administration. It's not quite like at the level where the law firms just completely capitulated and decided to give him pro bono work at like the $100 million level, but there are conversations happening right now, and they're hiring lobbyists to protect themselves from the universities.
Wow, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
That really is shocking. What is your outlook on that? What do you think?
I'm actually a fellow at a university at American. I know you're at Columbia University. I think, it's funny because when I was in college, I was way more conservative than I am now. And it was for kind of the same reason that you said. I was just trying to be like a different voice in a sea of very liberal voices around me. So like I would write opinion pieces in my opinion journalism class that were sourcing like the Heritage Foundation or like random conservative places, because I felt that all the other opinion pieces that were being read out in the class were just so they were like sheep. Like everyone was saying the same thing. I just felt like I wanted to inject a new idea into the room. As I got older and older, I started to think about the world differently. And I'm much more open to all different types of perspectives just based on my life experiences. And I don't really believe in like party orthodoxy. I'm actually probably a little anti-party at this point in my life, because I see power up close and how much it corrupts people. So I'm deeply suspicious of it. But I do think like I don't think we should be in combat with universities. But I do think it's a worthy conversation to talk about like the fact that, it does become a place that starts to indoctrinate students if there isn't enough conversation, and where like there also needs to be a safe space for conservative students too. Like they can't all just be going to Southern state universities. Like there needs to be, in the same way that they think about how to make sure that people from lower income profiles are involved, like are accepted, and different like minority groups, they also should be making sure that like different geographic groups are being accepted into universities, and people from honestly different income levels. Like I think a big part of the reason why I was probably more conservative than my colleagues or my peers was because I came from a working class background where a lot of them came from, upper class they were upper middle class, or, their parents were professionals. And so they had a different life view. I was probably one of the few people around them that was like on a scholarship, and I was the first person in my family to graduate from college, and a first generation American. So I had a different life perspective than they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like I totally share your view that like of course a lot of these reforms in colleges need to happen. Like I mean, having been at NYU recently, I had the same experience where like I I kind of wanted to be different, or like inject difference for the sake of it, because there was such an orthodoxy. I think that
Mm.
100% is a problem on campuses. I think, you know, I like, for example, at Columbia, having been there during these encampments, like it's such a tiny percentage of kids that actually think that way. But because like nobody actually wants to put themselves out there and say like, I think it's kind of ridiculous that we're pitching tents and
Mm.
like totally shutting down the university for a foreign cause that we're not going to make a difference about, like it seems as though that is the only opinion on campus. And I think that
Mm.
that happens quite a bit in a different context and in different iterations on campuses. And like I definitely agree with a lot of like the issues that someone like maybe Christopher Rufo would take with university campuses. But like something that keeps happening, I think, in this, especially in the second iteration of the Trump administration, is like I agree with the critiques sometimes, but I so disagree with the methods of like how we're going
Mm.
to fix it. Like I don't think that like the way that we fix the problem with like conservative students being suppressed is like by force
Yeah,
somehow,
brute force.
and
That's
like
what they think.
it's
Takeover.
like it's like fighting
Shakedown.
authoritarianism
It's
with
like mob shit.
authoritarianism.
It's
Exactly.
seriously like mob shit. I would know.
It's
I'm
like
from Northern
upping the
Jersey.
ante. It's like the opposite like of like libertarian principles of like how can we like promote more free speech and free discourse. Like I think this will make academia even more hostile to
Mm.
the conservative movement as it is right now, or to people who are pro Trump, or to, I mean, it's just, I think it's just really the wrong methods, even if the critiques are in the right place. And it's super disappointing. Like even as someone, like for me personally, being like a very pro free speech person, and
Mm.
like I totally think that there's a problem with free speech on campus for conservatives. Like I was worried about losing friends. I definitely lost friends when I started my career, and I don't hear from a lot of people that I knew at
Mm.
NYU for that reason and for my beliefs, and that's fine, whatever, that's their prerogative. But like apparently like the Trump administration in 2019 signed an executive order that tied federal funding to promoting free speech on campus, and now we're like kidnapping students off the streets for op-eds. I mean, like this is,
Mm.
it's just the hypocrisy on that, and like just the lack of the consistent principles is really infuriating to me.
And also, like, whatever is retrogressive is always going to be popular on campuses. So if you're too extreme, like another extreme is going to come up from it. And yeah, you have to be careful with how you wage your power and how you use it. But this brings me to the next question, or the next prediction. How many seats will Republicans lose in the House? I don't see a bottom for Republicans in the midterms. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what the exact number will be, but I think it will be tightly correlated to how much worse this tariff situation gets. I think that like Trump has really vastly underestimated how much support he will hemorrhage, perhaps not from younger people who don't have the savings, but from older voters, for sure. And those are the more reliable voters too. Younger voters are not reliable voters,
Especially not
and
in a midterm election.
definitely not. And to have all this internal disagreement within even his own cabinet about this, to have Elon Musk like criticizing him about it, like, and for him to be the face of this policy in such a specific way, and for his stubbornness to really be the reason why it's there in the first place and persisting and in the form that it is with this crazy, like, screwed up formula, I think, that is going to be directly tied to the outcome of the midterms, unless the Republicans do something like really surprising and somehow like contest his executive power to pull off this policy. But I'm not sure that they're going to do that.
Yeah, I doubt that. I mean, it just They're afraid of him. They're afraid of X. They're afraid of his political arm. They're afraid to be primaried. I mean, if they do primary them, a lot of these moderate Republicans are just going to get Looney Tunes on the right that can't get reelected. So that can't be elected, and then the Democrats win. The other question is, though, do the Democrats go Tea Party style on their own on the left, and then they have candidates who can't be elected either? We'll see what happens. So,
Okay.
Rikki, we are coming up on Trump's first 100-day mark. This is when he is graded by the press and just universally. It comes up on April 30th. Predict his grade.
Like D+ from me. I don't know. It's been really. I think it's the thing from my perspective is I think that the media and a lot of people on the left were like Trump derangement syndrome was real in the 1.0 version, and like a lot of the things that they said were like going to be the end of the world and catastrophic were hyperbolic, and like yes, I disagreed with a lot of his policies, but they were not disastrous in the way that the media was pearl clutching frequently in the first iteration. This time around, I feel like he's become like he's almost like out of vengeance proving the people that were hyperbolic about him the first time right. And it's just like, it's been crazy from my vantage point, and I feel like he's embarrassed a lot of the people that voted for him, at least in my view. So that's how I'm docking him. But I mean, I guess I could be a little more generous and say like C-.
I'll let you keep that one. Will Trump run for a third term?
No, I think he'll be prevented, but I think he'll try to.
Of course.
I do think he'll try to, which is really disturbing. I don't know. What do you think?
He can't amend the Constitution without 2/3 majority in the House and Senate, and he's not even close to that. He's
There's
got
no
like
way
2 to
he's gonna
3
get that.
seats in the
Yeah.
House, and he's going to lose them all. He'll probably have Democrats in the next Congress that are trying to impeach him the entire time. So I don't think there's a constitutional way to do it unless you try to make some sort of argument that there is a national emergency or a war power that he needs to be in office for more time. I mean, he could use a militia, which is terrifying and obviously has been tried before. But but I don't know any other way. I mean, have you thought about it? Does it keep you up at night?
It's not keeping me up at night yet. If I had lived that way, that would kind of suck. I think I'm really trying my best to keep Trump out of my mind as I sleep. But, you know, I mean, I wonder if the way that he justified the supposed Tren de Aragua, deportations and just like evoking the Alien Sedition Act out of nowhere, is not sort of like a prelude to the way that he could actually evoke some sort of like wartime provision, but I'm not sure. I don't know. What does your gut say?
I think it would be the same kind of thing, like some sort of emergency provision, and he tries to use that. It's by executive order. The courts have to get involved. I don't think there's any other way. I think he leaves the office screaming and crying, much like he did the first time.
I think so too.
No endorsement for JD Vance. No endorsement for the future.
Yeah.
You don't even endorse him now.
I'm not sure that Vance is going to run. I almost wonder if like I don't think that he's going to run. I don't think that he can internally be the VP and also like start positioning himself to run when Trump is signaling that he wants a third term. I think that could be like suicidal for him somehow.
I also believe that Vance has always been a placeholder for Donald Trump Jr. in the political franchise of Trump org.
I hadn't thought of that. Oh, yeah. I hope not.
Just saying.
That's not a bad theory.
Always franchise. This was great. Loved having you on the show. Would love to come back in maybe 100 days and figure out and try this again and see if we were right.
Yeah, this is super fun. Thank you for having me.
To support my journalism, please hit that subscribe button and share this with your friends. To get my reports first and straight to your inbox, consider becoming a subscriber to my newsletter, The Red Letter, at tarapalmeri.com. You can also become a VIP member of this channel, or even go a step further if you have the means by donating to my GoFundMe page. You can find it in the description to the show. See you again soon.